The village of Oakhaven was small, a haven nestled amongst ancient oaks. Sunlight dripped through the leaves, dappling the forest floor. Here, amidst the rustling leaves and the babbling brook, lived twin sisters, Ilara and Lyra. Though identical in appearance, their souls resonated with opposing energies. Ilara, with her sunny disposition, was the embodiment of kindness. Her laughter echoed through the glades, as bright and clear as the morning sun. She found joy in nurturing life, her hands always stained with the soil of her garden. She believed in the inherent goodness within everyone, her heart a beacon of warmth and empathy. But her unwavering faith in the good in people often blinded her to the shadows lurking beneath the surface. Lyra, veiled in cool detachment, was a creature of the night. She preferred the company of rustling leaves and whispering shadows to the warmth of the sun. Her world was one of secrets where power crackled just beneath the surface. Their opposing natures were a source of constant friction, their lives a tangled braid of light and shadow. Yet, beneath their differences, a bond of sisterhood remained, fragile but unbreakable. Ilara tended her garden, coaxing life from the earth. Sunbeams kissed her hair, painting her a picture of pure radiance. She hummed a gentle tune, a melody as old as Oakhaven itself. Each flower that bloomed under her care was a testament to the light she carried within. She'd always been drawn to the living things of the forest, finding solace in their silent companionship. One day, while gathering herbs at the edge of the woods, Ilara stumbled upon a wounded bird. Pity welled up in her heart, and she gently cradled the creature in her hands. She carried it home, whispering soothing words, promising it safety and care. As she tended to its wounds, she felt a surge of warmth spread through her, a feeling of connection to something larger than herself. This, she knew, was the true essence of her being, the light that guided her path. Lyra, unlike her sister, found solace in the cool embrace of the forest shadows. The sunlight, when it managed to pierce the dense canopy, seemed intrusive, unwelcome. She felt most at peace under the watchful gaze of the moon, its silvery light illuminating the hidden paths. She roamed the woods at night, her footsteps silent on the moss-covered ground. The creatures of the night were her companions, their wild, untamed spirits resonating with her own. One evening, as she walked beneath the skeletal branches of a long-dead oak, she heard a voice. It was a low, guttural sound, ancient and powerful. Intrigued, Lyra reached out, her fingers brushing against the rough bark of the tree. The voice whispered again, this time inside her head, offering her a glimpse into the heart of the forest's magic. A shadow fell over Oakhaven, a creeping unease settled over the villagers, a disquiet that chilled them to the bone. The laughter of children, once a constant melody in the village square, dwindled to an unsettling silence. The forest, once a source of life and sustenance, now seemed to press in on them, its shadows filled with unseen eyes. Whispers of strange occurrences spread through the village like wildfire. Livestock went missing, their pens empty but for a lingering sense of dread. Crops withered and died, leaving behind barren fields and the bitter taste of fear. Ilara felt the shift in the village's energy, the light dimming as if a cloud had passed over the sun. She saw the fear in the eyes of her neighbors, heard it in their hushed whispers. Even in the heart of her garden, surrounded by the life she nurtured, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The light that had always sustained her flickered, threatened by a darkness she couldn't comprehend. Disturbed by the encroaching darkness, Ilara sought the counsel of old Silas, the village elder. He lived a hermit's existence at the edge of the woods, his small cottage nestled amongst the roots of a giant oak. Silas listened patiently as Ilara described the fear that gripped Oakhaven, the strange occurrences that plagued the village. His eyes, though clouded with age, held a spark of ancient knowledge. "The balance has been disrupted," he finally rasped, his voice like the rustling of dry leaves. "The threads of light and darkness, always intertwined, have become frayed. One twin embraces the light, the other the shadows. Their choices will determine the fate of Oakhaven." Ilara's heart sank. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders, heavy and suffocating. Ilara confronted Lyra, her heart heavy with dread. She found her twin in their usual meeting place, a small clearing bathed in moonlight. The air crackled with an almost tangible energy, a mixture of light and shadow that sent shivers down Ilara's spine. "You must stop this, Lyra," Ilara pleaded, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. "Your darkness is poisoning Oakhaven. Our neighbors are afraid, their lives unraveling." Lyra merely smirked, her eyes gleaming with a cold, hard light. "Their fear is their own weakness," she retorted, her voice laced with disdain. The sisters argued, their words echoing through the silent clearing, each trying to sway the other to their way of thinking. As the argument escalated, the air grew heavy with unspoken resentment. The bond between them stretched thin, threatening to snap. Desperate to save her village and her sister, Ilara returned to old Silas. She recounted her encounter with Lyra, the fear and frustration evident in her voice. She felt lost, adrift in a sea of doubt and despair. Silas listened patiently, his gaze fixed on the flickering flames of the hearth. When she was finished, he spoke, his voice soft but firm. "The darkness cannot exist without the light," he said, his words washing over Ilara like a soothing balm. "Just as the light cannot exist without the darkness. It is the balance between the two that maintains the harmony of the world." "But what can I do?" Ilara cried, her voice laced with despair. "You are not without power, child," Silas said, his eyes twinkling with a knowing light. "The light you carry within you is a force far greater than you realize. Let it shine brightly enough to pierce even the darkest of shadows." Armed with newfound determination, Ilara returned to the heart of Oakhaven. She gathered the villagers in the square, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. She stood before them, her heart pounding in her chest, and began to speak. She spoke of hope and resilience, of the enduring strength of community. She reminded them of the good within themselves, the love that bound them together. She spoke of the light that resided in each of them, a light that even the darkest of shadows couldn't extinguish. As she spoke, a change came over the villagers. The fear in their eyes began to recede, replaced by a glimmer of hope. They reached out to one another, their hands clasping in a silent vow of solidarity. And as the villagers embraced the light within themselves, the shadows that had plagued Oakhaven began to recede. Lyra, witnessing the transformation of Oakhaven, felt a flicker of something unfamiliar stir within her. The shadows that had always brought her comfort now seemed cold and empty. The power she had craved now felt hollow, meaningless, without the warmth of connection, of belonging. Drawn by an invisible force, she approached the edge of the village square, her footsteps hesitant, uncertain. She watched as Ilara, her face radiant with love and compassion, embraced their neighbors. For the first time, Lyra saw the beauty in her sister's light, the strength in her unwavering belief in the good in others. And in that moment, Lyra understood. She realized that true power lay not in domination and control, but in love, compassion, and the courage to embrace the light.